Nice.
Hello.
Let's do it. Welcome to the Daily Stoic Conversation.
Welcome.
May 26. Stop caring what people think.
Stop caring about what? Stop caring?
What people
what
think.
What people think. Okay, yeah, okay. That's a difficult task to ask for.
I'm excited.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, Marcus Aurelius says, I'm constantly amazed by how easily we love ourselves how easily we love ourselves above all others, yet we put more stock in the opinions of others than in our own estimation of self. How much credence we give to the opinions our peers have of us, and how little to our very own. So he's saying we put more stock in what other people think of us than in what we think of ourselves. I would say I'm probably half and half, because there's also a lot of times for me where I am putting a lot of stock in my own estimation of self, but that estimation is flawed. And meanwhile, other people would be looking at me and be like, well, what? Like, no, don't give yourself a hard time about that. Of course this was challenging. Like, of course you didn't get everything you wanted to get done accomplished because there's X, Y, and Z force working against you. And I'm like, oh, but if I had just known to like check in with this person 3 days ago, I would have put us in a better situation. And like, they think highly of me and I don't think highly of myself. So I have that too. I have it the other way where I'm like, these people are thinking this bad thing about me. But then when they think good things about me, I'm like, no, you're wrong. The thing in my head that says I'm a piece of shit is the right one.
So is it ever aligned? Or is it always the opposite?
No, I think it's aligned often. Yeah, like I wouldn't say this is an all the time sort of thing, but maybe it spikes once a day, once every 2 days.
Where you would get maybe positive feedback, but you would be like, what do you know? You don't know me. I suck. But and at the same time, maybe another scenario is where you thinking, oh my God, I got this, this is totally fine. And they're just like, oh no, I'm going to have to rewrite all of this, dude. Or something like that.
Yeah, and then that one is tricky because I do want to be open to feedback and I want to be constantly adjusting my efforts so that it's making things better for other people. I don't want to ignore feedback from people that are like, hey, this is boring me, not interesting to me, not helping me, not what I asked for, not what I need. Like, of course, I want to be in alignment with that and like sensitive to it and deliver on it. But I don't want to feel badly about myself in the process of that.
Because that's how you feel. You might say like you feel badly.
Yeah, well, I think that's what they're getting at with like stop caring about what people think, because obviously I can't stop caring about what everybody thinks about everything. Like, I'm not living in this world by myself. This is a constant give and take. But I think what they're driving at is like caring about sort of like what their opinion about me.
Yeah.
So it's like but sometimes that is, it comes in one package. It's delivered in one package. So it's difficult to sort it out of like, okay, well, this is valid feedback that I probably should consider and incorporate. And at the same time, this is like this sort of junky opinion surrounding it that I kind of need to disregard. Yeah.
And because maybe they don't necessarily know how to sort it out for you, they just give you this blunt feedback, and now it's up to you to sort it out. And the tendencies like take it the way it is unsorted.
take it the way it is unsorted.
Yeah, so like take it the way it comes, and it says like, well, you know, like you notice the negative part about it instead of the, okay, the sorting. I have to actually sort it. Okay, I'm gonna pick. Okay, yes, that's a valid feedback. This thing completely wrong. That's your opinion. You're welcome to it, but I don't agree with you, right? And it's now. But when you don't sort it, what ends up happening is you take it and you see that bad thing, that opinion there, and that opinion is formed on these things that you might want to improve. So it's like touching you. It's like, yeah, that's like supposed to change all this stuff, but the way you're telling me this, like I want to punch you back instead of receive this as a valid feedback. Yeah. So then it becomes this like, holy cow, wait, this is on me to sort it out. Boy, that is a hard one, man. Yeah, because and it's also like, well, of course it's on me to sort it out. I can't expect them to. Wouldn't that be nice? It would be excellent if they were just giving it to me exactly that way. You know what I mean?
But that's not what reality is.
But that's delivering. Not what actually is being delivered. What's being delivered is this like, that's why I don't like it. And you're like, oh, dude, like, so I suck, right? I'm the worst person in the world. And that's how you might walk away from it, right? But because that wasn't sorted by you, because you can't sort it, because it's too painful to hear mistakes that you made or something, you know? There was this other book that we were listening to. We went for a walk this morning, and we were listening to a different book about, what is it called? Remind me? Winning.
Defining moments is maybe the name of the book.
Yeah. So, but I was thinking about how there's something related there.
One of the stories in the book?
One of the stories in the book was related to this. But
we'll take a moment.
Caring about somebody else and not caring what other people say. No, that's okay. Anyway, it's something in that book that was very related to like how to look at it differently, you know, with this like, it's on me to I can't expect everyone else to deliver the message to me in the way that I can accept it with a smile on my face. That's not realistic. So then what's more realistic is for me to figure out how to hear first, then sort, then have an opinion. And currently that happens like receiving opinion, which is without that sorting. Of course there is some sorting here and there, and you know, but the emotions speak for themselves, because when I hear something negative that I've done wrong or I should be doing differently, there's instant emotion. So what I'm actually hearing is the opinion. Mm-hmm. Because that opinion is pissing me off. That's what's creating all this stuff, right? Like, and I can't even focus on like, oh my God, what can I focus on in this feedback that is actually the thing that I should be taking away from it. It's like almost clouded. It's like I can't see it. I can't see it because the emotion is like focusing on the delivery or the things that I don't like, or that I'm being judged, and I don't want to be judged because I want to be without mistakes, right? That's what it was. Mistakes, like how how having the growing up in families, like they were talking about, like we grow up with this like don't make any mistakes, right? And he was saying that there was a different family who was specifically asking the kids at the end of the day, hey, what kind of mistakes have you done today? Tell me about them. Like, where have you failed? And like they made the kids to like be more okay with failure, because they were constantly asking about the failure and not punishing them for the failure, but being more interested in the failure and the diagnosis of it or something. And that made those kids very freely talk about failures, their own failures. Oh yeah, I messed this up. That's totally cool. I'll fix it. We gotta figure this out. Like, it doesn't create these emotional things when you hear the feedback of, hey, you messed it up. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? It should be the real nice, that's what I want to have as a response, to say, like, someone says, hey, you messed something up. I'm like, damn right, man, that was crazy. Like, I don't know how I was trying to juggle all that stuff so it all fell down, right? Like and having non-emotional reaction to it, because I'm more aligned with failure is a learning thing, not a punishing thing.
Yeah, because that's where they sort of finished that chapter, was like the reason failure is important is because it means that you risked something, you tried something new. And not every risk is going to be successful. You have to accept that. There is going to be failure. That's why it's a risk. But what you get is learning. Like, the metric that comes out on the other side is learning. And so I feel like, I've been in the same boat as you in terms of like how I've taken failure, or like wanting to avoid situations where I might fail. And I would say the last few years I've kind of been pushing myself more and more out of my comfort zone in various ways, to the point that I sort of, like, I've been through the cycle of failure a few times, that it's not as emotional as it has been in the past to go through the cycle, because I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, life is not all about winning. Like, I can't win all of the time.
That's interesting, because I look at it as like, I feel like I have failed so many times that I say to myself, like, oh my God, I failed so many times that I should already know how to deal with that failure. And as this thought is coming through my head, I'm like, man, maybe I haven't failed enough at all. Like, I have not failed enough.
Yeah. Because, it's like, what is enough? Enough is until I learn the most things to help me do something different that produces a different result.
I haven't done it enough for that understanding to take such a root that these emotions are part of that understanding, and now they're not actually reacting in that way, because now it's like rooted in there. And so therefore, like, I probably have not had enough failures.
Yeah, well,
because I'm trying to avoid them.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like, I'm trying to work harder. I'm going to work on the weekend just so I don't fail on Monday. Right? But that's also failing in some other way.
Right, like, that's failing on, like, maybe moving forward on your personal purpose or your boundaries or like other dimensions of life.
Yeah. It's a balance, man.
Yeah, because there's that saying of the master has failed more than the beginner has tried.
Yeah, I love that one. Yeah.
And so it's like, man, I need to increase my appetite for failure. It's just, there's no other way around it. And to look at failure,
it's so uncomfortable.
Like, not to
anything in my head I imagine as like, hey, like, what if the project that I'm running, what if I failed that? It's so uncomfortable to think that, but is that maybe thinking about that is not the right action to do. To thinking about, how would that be if I failed? Oh, that would be horrible. Like, well, of course it would be horrible, or something. Or would feel horrible. Maybe.
Well, it's like, if I know that learning is on the other side, then now I can reorient my failure towards, like, doing something productive with it, which is, let me learn my lesson. Like, let me, like, not stew in the, I was so terrible, the situation was so terrible, this other person was so terrible. Like, none of that is like, if I just leave it there, I'm going to continue the cycle. Yeah. And next time I haven't learned anything. Failure is here so that I learn. So I need to then get to the learning as quickly as possible.
Yeah. That's funny. There's that like, failure is not an option thing, right? From like Apollo 13 or something. Mm-hmm. But then there is this other thing that says that's like the opposite of, like, the failure is the only option. Yeah, that's cool. Good takeaways. Ryan.
We haven't read Ryan.
I'm like getting up. I'm like, let's do this.
All right.
Okay.
Let's read Ryan.
Yeah.
How quickly we can disregard our own feelings about something and adopt someone else's. We think a shirt looks good at the store, but we'll view it with shame and scorn if our spouse or a coworker makes an offhand remark. We can be immensely happy with our own lives until we find out that someone we don't even like has more. Or worse and more precariously, we don't feel good about our accomplishments or talents until some third party validates them. Like most Stoic exercises, this one attempts to teach us that although we control our own opinions, we don't control what other people think, about us least of all. For this reason, putting ourselves at the mercy of those opinions and trying to gain the approval of others are a dangerous endeavor. Don't spend much time thinking about what other people think. Think about what you think. Think instead about the results, about the impact, about whether it is the right thing to do. There's a lot actually to unpack in this one.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
It's, he says like we can be immensely happy with our own lives until we find out that someone we don't like has more. I mean, I don't really know how that relates to today's theme of when we care about the opinions of others, because this isn't that scenario. This is a scenario where I compare myself to somebody and I'm like, oh shit, like I thought I was doing good, but because this person's doing so much better, so like I'm not doing that good.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But that drives you as well, doesn't it, a little bit?
I'm just saying that like this is not an example of caring about what other people think about you. So it's not exactly on topic for what today's situation is, but it is like connected. And so I think like there's this whole like caring about the opinions of others is connected to, or like a short slide away from all of these other things, like comparing myself to them.
Like what they think is then, if that matters, then you're also comparing yourself, what do they have? And I should have that same thing, and what kind of status they have, and I should be similar to that. That's the Joneses, or keeping up with the Joneses.
It's like they're all sisters of each other somehow. And so there's probably benefit of like, okay, if I can get it to the place where like I'm not really interested in the opinions of other people, but at the same time I know how to take feedback. If I can strike that delicate balance, I might not even have to try to stop comparing myself to others. It may just happen on its own.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that there's like today I will stop caring, like that. It just happens, by these understandings. So perhaps what we're doing is ultimately adding to that understanding. So at some point these reactions are not, they're welcomed instead of avoided or something. Yeah, that's cool. Anything else, honey?
I'm good.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Thank you for joining, and we will see you here tomorrow.